it's both a combination of not enough rigs available and also a huge shortage of truckers that are available that have their commercial driver's license.
With supply chains backed up all over the world, the vital role the trucking industry plays has received increased attention. Are the drivers being pushed beyond safety limits? And if so, who's doing the pushing? We're going to talk to Steve Grover about that on today's episode of Ask the Lawyer. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great to have you. Recently on the John Oliver Show, which is called Last Week Tonight, he really broke down the issues with the trucking industry and why there are shortages of drivers all across North America. I know you didn't see the show, but what do you think of the issue there of the truckers?
Well, I think it's both of a shortage of trucks and rigs available right now in North America, on top of the shortage of truck drivers available. Unfortunately, truck driving, the rates aren't that great of rates, and unfortunately, a lot of people aren't looking for a career as a truck driver. It's a very noble job because if it wasn't for the truckers, we wouldn't get the food we need at the grocery store, or even, the TV that we watch, Monday Night Football with. So it's both a combination of not enough rigs available and also a huge shortage of truckers that are available that have their commercial driver's license.
One thing that he mentioned is that the truckers are paid by miles and not by hours. Is that true in Canada?
In Alberta, it's sort of a mix. There's you can get paid by the hour, you can get paid by the mile, and here in Alberta there is a big oil industry up in the tar sands near Fort McMurray. I don't know if you're familiar with that area. Second biggest reserve of oil in the world. A lot of people don't know that, but you can get paid by the ton. So there's a mix in Alberta. You can get paid by the hour, mile, or ton, and if you're working up north and you get paid by the ton, you can make some really good money up north in northern Alberta near Fort McMurray.
Okay. But in general, do you think they're getting paid enough to actually attract experienced drivers and keep them there?
No, I don't think so. I think it's an area that they're not taking care of the truckers. The rate of pay is not that great. I know even the trucking companies are stretched of how much money they could make per haul. I mean, I've heard some trucking companies in Alberta just make $1,000 from, take a haul from Edmonton to Calgary, which is almost 3.5 hours. Can be a dangerous route to take in the wintertime when there's snow and ice on the road. So, unfortunately, the truckers aren't getting paid a reasonable amount.
Well, talk about some of the dangers of truckers rushing or speeding or having lack of sleep there.
Regarding speeding, it's both a trucking company issue and a trucker's issue. I know there's pressure on the truckers from the company to get that haul from Calgary to Vancouver at a certain time rate. But the problem with drivers, if you're a truck driver, you're driving ASFRAC as your lifeblood. So if you have, a lot of demerits, a lot of speeding tickets, that's going to affect your ability to continue to work as a trucker. Maybe, you can't drive a truck because you got too many demerits, or the company obviously is looking to hire truck drivers that have clear demerit abstracts and they're not at risk to cause an accident, when they're behind the wheel.
Right. And one of the things John mentioned too is that a lot of companies are pushing their drivers to continue driving even when they're really tired. Have you seen that in your experience as well?
Yeah, unfortunately, the truck companies are on schedule. They want to make a profit. Fuel costs have gone through the roof. Maintenance costs have gone through the roof. There's pressure on the company to make money per haul. So they are pushing the truck drivers to, drive when they're tired. I've seen some drivers that have caused accident where they're on meth, so they can keep up all night driving and cause a big accident. So it's a huge risk, and I don't agree with it. I think the truckers, they have to have a reasonable time to put their haul on the road and deliver in time, and don't put them under pressure. So they're taking certain drugs to stay awake, or they're just pushing through with trying to make sure they make their haul on time because the company's putting the pressure on them.
Right. Well, along the same lines, as an experienced trucking attorney, what changes do you think need to happen to keep the truckers safe, to keep the public safe, and also, keep the jobs being delivered on time as well, the supply chain?
Unfortunately, when you live in like Canada and America, and we have a democracy, we don't like big government involvement, but I think the government has to get involved with more regulations. I think there has to be a base rate set. I mean, if you're driving a truck or making a delivery in the city of Calgary, I mean, you should be making $24 an hour, not $15 an hour. Also, they can look at, hey, we'll pay it as how many axles you have. Because if you carry more axles on your rig, you can carry more weight and therefore, make more money on the haul. So unfortunately, I think, people don't like big business, big government involvement. But I think there has to be more pressure on the government to change the regulations and understand the problems that we're facing here in Canada or generally in North America, and put more of a base rate policy across the board where truckers are going to get a reasonable fee and they're going to make a good money, and where the company's not under pressure to push their drivers to the end of a haul.
Right. Well, great answer there. Certainly, it's a hotbed issue. Anything else you want to add about the whole subject here?
No, but in the big picture, I know unfortunately we do trucking accidents, and we're not going after every trucking company. We're just going after the ones that push have bad reputations. And I respect the truckers. It's an important job, and the trucking companies are doing a job. They're getting the goods to our market, at the shopping center, grocery store. So we understand what pressure they're under as a trucking company and what pressure truck drivers under too. Okay.
Great. Well, great answer. As always, Steve, we really appreciate your expertise. And that's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My special guest today has been Steve Grover. If you want to ask Steve a question about your situation, call the number you see on the screen. Thanks for watching. I'm Tom Mustin for Ask the Lawyers.